Hello, I'm Humperdinck Jackman. I'm the Managing Director of ESG PRO, here today to introduce you to us as a company and for you to understand our vision of ESG reporting, sustainability, the whole picture. To kick it off, we really have built our company from the ground up to offer an truly effective approach to make ESG reporting transparent, effective, and affordable, and refreshingly simple. It all starts with the ESG and United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. ESG is a single point of reporting, and it's something your ESG reporting should come out annually alongside your financial reports. Okay, it stands for environment, which encompasses carbon, emissions, anything which affects where we live. Social, which is about the people. People we employ, people we engage with in our local community, and people in the community where our products are sold or our services are used. And governance, which is the sort of dirty secret in the whole topic because nobody likes to talk about it anymore. But governance is very much about how you look after your employees. Is your organization honest? Is it protecting against risk? So do your investors actually know what's coming? Are you being open with them? So there's a lot going on here and a lot more out of these entire 17 SDGs, which are important to ultimately to understand and address. But you've got to start somewhere. Then there's the carbon question. So many people think that sustainability reporting is all about your emissions. And, well, it's part of the equation. It's for us from a phase one standpoint, it's your carbon footprint, which is you'll find is expressed as scope 1, 2, 3. Where are the emissions? Are you responsible for them? And how are you managing them? And then always to create an action plan about how you work to reduce them. As a second phase, there's the topic of carbon neutrality, which is invariably requiring carbon offsets. In other words, paying somebody else to do something good for the environment to reduce their carbon footprint, and thereby you buy that service. I've got mixed feelings on it. It does count, and it's a good step, but it's not. It must come back to the action plan about how you're going to reduce your own carbon emissions. And then with carbon neutrality, it's about verifying to a legitimate standard, not something cooked up on the back of an envelope by some little business, which is why we focus on the British Standards Institute, BSI, PAS 2060, as it's called. Moving on, ESG is so important to understand that there's the frameworks, the reports on the surface, but when it comes right down to it, it's all of the details of how the company is really operating and who is doing what where, basically. Your stakeholders are the critical component, and your stakeholders are not just your board of directors and investors, but their employees. Perhaps it's the local community school. Can be all manner of things. So there's a lot going on in ESG reporting. The benefits of ESG reporting, well, for many businesses, if not all of them, it's about client acquisition. In other words, it's being more competitive, showing that you're doing good or that you're doing less harm, and being able to justify what you're doing, to prove what you're doing in an audited and logical format. For many businesses, in a competitive situation, business to business especially, it's about replying to a tender successfully. And then there's your reputation. And you need to say Volkswagen, and you probably get the rest of the picture. These days also, it's about gaining access to funding. Venture capitalists, angel investors, banks, they're risk averse, and they're looking for businesses to invest in or to purchase, lend money to, who pose the lowest risk of a skeleton in the closet. There's a lot of regulations coming downstream. It's almost overwhelming. It's a presentation in its own right, but expect a lot more of this, especially with the Sustainable Reporting Directive coming downstream, both in the EU in 2023 and the UK in 2024. And I just touch on talent acquisition and retention for a moment. Millennials and baby boomers, well, they've kind of had their time. It's Generation Y and Z. And these groups, the public is actually looking, they're asking, do I want to work for your firm, your organization? Does it represent my values? And ESG goes a long way in attracting the best talent. Now, our goal is that you're ESG sustainability certified. That's our mission to get you there. But before we look at that in detail, ESG is starting to really dominate, as Gartner expressed it. If 2010 to 2020 was the decade of digital transformation, 2020 to 2030 is about ESG. This is the big topic. That doesn't mean that cybersecurity is no longer important. Of course it is. But then how can you be a responsible business if you're not protecting your client's data? The supply chain is really driving the uptake of ESG reporting. It's shifted from a financial investment tool to being something which corporations they're looking at their own reputations. And they want to know that their suppliers at every level are responsible. And here's a great example. The 1 in 5 retailers in Wales have cancelled contracts with suppliers over the past year who didn't meet ESG standards. And this is in a regional newspaper. Confederation of British Industry rather does echo it. If you want to actually make money today, tomorrow, and in the future, get on board with environmental, social, and governance reporting. Assets accounting, highlighting that it's ESG good governance and the whole ESG policies which need to be in place for you to continue to access sources of funding. And they're a top 10 accountancy firm in the UK. But the real difference here, and I love this slide because this really formed the basis of how we, this was the foundation of ESG PRO, that ESG reporting can be complex. There can be hundreds of questions which need to be answered, and that's before you get digging too deeply. So if you don't employ the specialist, if you can't find a specialist, if you can't afford the specialist, then how are you going to get it done? And even if you have the utilities in place, then there are proper ways to do your reporting. And there are ways which will mean you will fail no matter how much effort you put into it. So our view is that organizations need help, and we're the help. So there are about 600 ESG frameworks out there. The global, the most globally recognized of these are the GRI, the SASB, and the TCFD. But there are stock exchange regulations. There's an EU regulation for supply chain, and so it goes on. And there's a lot more to come. And so many of these frameworks, what they're actually doing is they're also feeding into organizations who wish to, frankly, be able to brag about their achievement of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. It tends to be larger organizations or governments, but it still counts. Trouble is the SDGs themselves are at times kind of vague. So you need the precision of detailed and relevant frameworks to be able to report correctly. Now our platforms, the platforms which we use and which we offer to clients as well, they're used globally. Most notable one is probably the World Bank, but you can spot on this slide many important names like Morgan Stanley, Facebook, Axel Springer, and so the list goes on. We take multiple platforms at ESG, multiple reporting platforms, and we end up delivering our clients globally recognized ESG ratings. Our clients don't have to pay extra for auditing and pay vast amounts of money because we include this at the outset. By us not selling our clients software licenses, unless there's a particular requirement for them to have these licenses internally, we save our clients an awful lot of money, estimated at about 95%. And it's no exaggeration, up to 10 times faster being able to get from a standing start to having a formal ESG rating. We're very, very proud of this. Now, the platforms we use incorporate artificial intelligence, blockchain for storing the evidential data. We have a legal case management system. And we package all of this together with all of the consulting and support our clients require, all the way through to, government level reports. The essence is that the ESG PRO team are your in-house resource. They're the consultants who are working remotely, but they're driving your project for you so you maintain the momentum and actually get results. The outcome is a series of ratings on the core topics: environment, social, governance. And if you bring in other frameworks, then also financial performance as well. And these normalized ratings, normalized being as in compared to industry peers, the size of your organization, where you are in the globe, etc., are broken down into great detail, mapped against the United Nations SDGs, and ultimately you gain a rating, like a financial rating. Now, in our case, we have a BBB rating, and a B rating is good. The actual scale runs from C through A, and then triple C through triple A. But the rating changes according to the size of your organization. But it's not a pass or fail. It's not like ISO 27001, for example. You're assessed, it's a statement of fact. This is where you are today. It's not a punitive measure. It's about being able to report what you are doing well. It starts with the materiality assessment, understanding what you need to report on. It progresses through detailed so-called material topics where we look at, for instance, general disclosures about your business, education, equal opportunities, customer privacy, and so it goes on. And we build this into a report, bespoke for every client. And in the front of the report, we build in the good things about your business, which might have seemed like marketing fluff, but because you have a report substantiating the claims within them, tell people what you're doing in the community. Tell people how beneficial your product or service is for the environment, and so on. Now, throughout your journey with ESG Pro, you're going to discover a tremendous degree of support, dedicated consultants, paced training, guidance, and how our team, who include a qualified, highly qualified and respected solicitor, produce legal standard company policies, and we give you the option to deploy software with support packages where required, and we maintain these audits throughout your reporting cycle, whether it's 1 year, 3-year, or multiple year contracts. So it's only with ESG Pro. We promise a fast start, 90 days to get to your first ESG rating. There's no extra fees for ratings. There is a sustainability certification, internationally accredited. It's a multi-platform backend powered by the latest technology there is. We're very proud of this, and we've made it exceptionally affordable. So, for the SME, it's £99 a month. For the smaller business, larger, not too many employees, it's just under £6,000 or £381 a month on a lease, all the way up to large, PLCs and beyond, which begin at just under £10,000 at £616 a month. So there is something for everybody. We do work for government projects as well, international corporations, and then we produce bespoke proposals according to what clients need. As far as carbon management, it's very similar. Depends on the degree an organization needs to achieve. So for most organizations, the CO2 bronze package does actually suffice. This is very good for businesses in the United Kingdom who are bidding for where there's public money, and they're subject to the Public Procurement Notice, or PPN 0621, and then all the way up to carbon offsets and verification. But talk to us. You'll discover we are very helpful, very knowledgeable, and we can tackle just about anything in the entire ESG or sustainability spectrum. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Humperdinck Jackman, and I look forward to picking up the phone and speaking to you. Cheers now.